Bumblebee back so soon? Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. In today's video we shall be taking a look at the Transformers Siege Voyager class Soundblaster. Now this review in a way is sort of a throwback review. I actually have only just been able to acquire the Soundblaster based on his appearance from the Netflix Siege series, as here in the UK this figure is super elusive. I am aware that in the US he is actually quite readily available, and I believe in some parts of the US he is actually on clearance, as you guys just have so much stock of this figure, but we actually never got this figure released at all, and to my knowledge he is also quite rare in other parts of the world, as I do believe Takara Tomy are going to be reissuing this figure without the battle damage on the chest plate, and instead of the Decepticon insignia he will indeed have the mercenary faction, although that figure has taken forever to release, and I personally actually really love how this 35th anniversary version of Soundblaster looks. Of course, for those of you who have watched the Netflix series, to me Soundblaster was definitely one of the standout characters and was by far the standout mercenary from Earthrise and Siege, despite him not actually appearing in Earthrise. I think he's the best mercenary character that we've seen so far, but I would have loved to have seen Hasbro and Takara Tomy utilise the Netflix Soundwave mould for this particular rendition, as in the show he does not have nowhere near as big of a chest unit as we are getting here with this particular release. But regardless, you can see here that as far as the overall sculpt is concerned, for the most part this is just a direct repaint of the original Transformers Siege Soundwave. So this figure does not transform into the fan favourite cassette player, and instead transforms into this really abstract looking, almost Cybertronian shuttle. However, of course, we shall delve into that later on in the review. Something which is glorious about this particular Soundblaster is that he has some of the best light piping that I have ever seen on a mass-produced Transformers figure. This is by far the best light piping that I've seen from any figure released in the past 5 years, and it definitely does look mesmerising. You can see that as far as the overall colour variation is concerned, it is just mostly cast black plastic with a few highlights of grey plastic, and then of course some really nice looking paint applications. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the character of Soundblaster, I believe that his original incarnation was actually an amalgamation of both Soundwave and Soundblaster. I believe that they both destroyed each other, and then their cassette bots actually reassembled both of them into Soundblaster, whereas if you've seen Siege, you guys all know that Soundblaster is in fact a failed Soundwave drone created by Shockwave. You can see that as far as the overall sculpt work is concerned, the robot mode for the Siege Soundwave I personally have always really liked, and it is very similar to what we actually got with the Netflix figure. It was always just the alternate mode of this release that I wasn't a huge fan of, but you can see there for the head sculpt, the light piping truly is fantastic with some amazing looking sculpt work, as well as of course that super nice silver. The major new mold change that this figure does have is of course the much larger chest unit. Now this can actually house 2 cassette bots. Unfortunately I have misplaced both Laserbeak and Ravage, and any of the other cassette bots such as Ratbat or Rumble or Frenzy are actually unable to fit in this, as they do become stuck. I have found that Laserbeak and Ravage are really the best cassette bots to actually insert in this, but if we just push this button to deploy the tape deck down, you can see how it is certainly a much larger looking chest unit, which is of course inaccurate to how it appeared in the show, but it really does help to differentiate him from Soundwave. You can also see some amazing looking sculpt work there in the interior. It's such a fantastic looking robot mode, and then of course we do have the cracked battle damaged effect with the Decepticon insignia, which will be replaced by just the mercenary faction when Takara Tomy do get round to re-releasing this figure. We also do get some nice cassette player details such as the buttons here, which to me upon this figure and even the original Siege Soundwave's release was a major kick in the teeth, as Hasbro were just teasing us that this figure was supposed to have a cassette player alt mode, whereas in fact he actually had that rather abstract looking Cybertronian aircraft. As this is a Siege figure, we do get some battle damage painted here on the forearms, which for Soundblaster I actually think works quite well. And then as we turn our attention here down to the lower section, you can see some really nice looking paint variation there. And then spinning around here to the back, the major difference between this figure and the Netflix version is that he did have these pieces on the back, whereas the Netflix version was just a clean release. So overall, as far as a robot mode is concerned, despite it not being 100% accurate to his appearance in the Netflix series, it certainly is an amazing repaint, and I have always been a fan of black and red paint schemes on Transformers. Any Bumblebee variation, the Murder Bee from DOTM comes to mind, was definitely an instant buy for me, and I just think that it is a really awesome looking colour scheme. Articulation for Soundblaster is that he does in fact have a ball joint here at the head, which can look up and down and rotate left to right, full rotation here at the arms, as well as a hinge joint, full rotation here at the bicep, but double joints here at the elbows. We do get a hinge joint here at the wrist, although no wrist rotation, a full rotation here at the waist, which on my copy is actually a little looser than perhaps I would like, these sections can move out of the way in order to accommodate the range of motion kicking forwards, and of course he can kick back out to the sides, full rotation here at the thigh, 90-degree bend there at the knee, and of course the signature War for Cybertron trilogy ankle rocker pivot. So overall, definitely a super solid looking robot mode. And for those of you who are asking, why do I have all of this energon scattered around Soundblaster? And that's because, of course, in the Siege show, Soundblaster does appear to be an energon harvester, and this is really what he uses in order to negotiate with Bumblebee in receiving certain assets in exchange for energon. We of course do get 3 accessories included with Soundblaster, the same over-the-shoulder cannon, which has been painted and sculpted really well. We also do get the blaster, which too looks super awesome, and we get this very random accessory that we've seen released across all of the Soundwave figures in the War for Cybertron trilogy, that being this very bland looking grey blaster. Now, I personally have no idea why this piece was ever released, even for the original Siege version, as it is pretty much useless in robot mode, as well as the Cybertronian aircraft mode, and even for the actual Netflix figure, it is even more useless, as it really doesn't have a role to play at all. In terms of comparisons, let's bring in some of the Soundwave figures that we've gotten so far. So here we have the original Siege version, which is a fantastic looking figure, but I was never really a huge fan of the yellow light piping, which is of course more toy accurate. And then we have the holy grail of mass-produced Soundwave figures, the most recently released Netflix Soundwave, and even to this day I just absolutely love how this figure looks. Super detailed, super G1 accurate, and is overall just a fantastic looking Voyager. Why can't Hasbro give us not only a Soundblaster repaint out of this figure, but also an actual blaster, an Autobot blaster remolded out of this? I can certainly see selling like hotcakes, much like we have seen here with this Netflix version. But just to give you a little larger comparison across all 3 versions of Soundwave and of course Soundblaster, all of them, to me, are really well done in their own regards. And for one final comparison, let's bring in Bumblebee, of whom tries to negotiate or actually trick Soundblaster in the series. And you can see that for the most part, I actually think the scale between these 2 characters works really nicely. I'm hoping that we can get Soundblaster reintroduced into the War for Cybertron trilogy when Kingdom does come. Obviously, we are more than likely never going to see this character again, which is so unfortunate, and to me it was a real shame not to see his character appear in Earthrise. Soundblaster, prepare for transformation. Turning to transformation, of course, you're going to want to remove both of Soundblaster's accessories. The transformation for this particular mold I have not performed for quite a significant amount of time, so I may get some steps wrong, although I'm pretty certain I know how this goes. So turn your attention here to the back, fold in the feet, collapse that down, and of course come here to this side and repeat the same process. We'll then want to rotate these sections here just like so, and of course snap these 2 halves into one another. I then believe we are to take these panels, fold these up, snap them there into place, and of course repeat the exact same process, so clip that in there. And then we turn to this region, which, if I'm not mistaken, you are supposed to take this, hinge this whole section up, fold the head into this cavity, detach the arms, bring these down, and then take this section, fold this out, bring this here all the way up and over, and just snap that into place. We can then disengage the waist joint, which does in some ways actually act as a fake ab crunch, which was super cool, so you can crunch this forwards and backwards, although for transformation you are supposed to take it and angle this section down, and these tabs will indeed peg into these slots, so just snap that in there nice and securely. Of course we can take these here, just set them there off to the side ever so slightly, and then we can turn our attention. Something appears to be restricting this. Oh, that is not supposed to happen. Bring that over and then reattach this like so. So I do believe you are supposed to angle these out before actually flipping up this section. I do apologise. We can then spin around here to the back, bring these down, peg those in, and of course repeat the same process. Rotate the forearms so that we can attach both of these sections into place. Fold this out, of course, fold this out, and then clip these 2 halves together, snapping all of that into place, and then folding these sections out, which almost creates a sledge here for Soundwave to actually rest upon. And then we can bring in the accessories, and this one here was supposed to fold up, and then this tab that we have here at the top is supposed to slide into this slot, So just peg that in there. Once again, very useless and rather redundant accessory in my opinion. And then we're supposed to take these accessories, compress those down, and then just attach these here onto the side. And of course, finally come here to this side and repeat the same process. And there we have Soundblaster fully transformed up into this really peculiar looking Cybertronian launch pad. I'm really unsure as to what this is supposed to be. To me, it does give me the impression that perhaps the Decepticons would land on this and then use this in order to fly off. It does definitely resemble a landing bay or perhaps some sort of flying aircraft. You can see how we do have a red transparent cockpit, but the sculpted in detailing really is mesmerizing. You can see as we flip these panels out, it does reveal some super nice looking sculpt work there, and the battle damage I actually think works exceptionally well here for this entire region. And then of course, as we turn here to the back, we do get the massive chest unit, which you can actually still utilize here for this mode, although seeing as it's not pegged into the torso, there is no stopping point for this to actually halt on, so it will droop all the way down. So overall, yes, I would have loved to have actually gotten this figure to convert into a cassette player, but regardless, I always display my Transformers in their robot modes, well, more than likely, and Soundblaster will definitely be staying in his robot mode. So if you have the opportunity to pick this figure up, then I would highly recommend to do so, especially if you do not live in the States. As mentioned, I do believe this figure is a little more readily available in the States than it is in other parts of the world. At least here in the UK, he was super rare, almost as rare as that Phantom Strike Squadron set that did of course include Thundercracker. So if you can track him down, I would highly recommend to do so. Your best bet in actually picking him up now is more than likely that Takara Tomy Generation Select re-release that they have got planned. Whether or not that will ever surface is yet to be seen, as I believe it was meant to be released in January, and of course we're now into March and there is no sign of that figure anywhere. But a really nice looking repaint, and for those of you who were a fan of the character's rather brief appearance in the Transformers Netflix Siege series, then this is definitely a must-have. I really hope that you enjoyed this review here for Soundblaster. If you did, please do let me know down in the comments section below, and also be sure to let me know on what figures you would like me to take a look at next. I thank you all for watching, and until my next video, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.